Hello everyone, my name is Rick Hahn. I'd like to spend a few minutes today discussing a multitude of ways that we can access and SOLIDWORKS data with and work with the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. Classical way of people like to work with the platform and with their data is of course directly from the SOLIDWORKS application. The file menu is the most common approach. Just locate an object, we say recent or open from, and pick an object and we open in session. You'll notice off to the right that the SOLIDWORKS platform is directly involved immediately. It shows me the status of the part that's in the database. It also lets me create revisions, alter maturity, and all the kind of things you might want to do with a product at the enterprise level. Now, as opposed to simply accessing a part that I already have on my disk, in many occasions you need to access parts that other team members may be working with, either locally or around the world. And we need to do that from the database itself on the platform. So in this case, I can simply do a search for some particular file name or string of characters, and the system returns all those parts that meet that criteria. I can take advantage of what we call the 6W tags to search for specific criteria to narrow the data down even further. And once I have what I want to look at, I can simply drag that into the active session of SOLIDWORKS, and it is brought locally so that I can then work with it. Okay? Now, in many occasions, we may need to work in the dashboard itself of the platform as a starting point. Let's look at that approach. So we will close a few of these apps and take a step over to the platform. Here I'm looking at a tool called the Bookmark Editor directly in the browser. And of course, the browser could be running on virtually any kind of machine where I can also access SOLIDWORKS. And the browser for the Bookmark Editor allows me to organize my assets in a number of ways, generally in a hierarchical way, I should say, and usually aligned with projects or programs that your company utilizes. Just a quick way, it can either be a personal organization or it could be a group organization of assets. But either way, you can store objects and components from SOLIDWORKS in this structure, hierarchical structure. Once you have them in the structure, you can simply highlight anywhere in this structure and then go to the applications that are available to you, one of those being SOLIDWORKS, and simply launch the SOLIDWORKS application within the dashboard. What that will do will launch SOLIDWORKS if it's not already running, bring the part from the global database locally to your environment, and then open it into the SOLIDWORKS session. Now, this is effective if you know the name of your parts. On many occasions, being a 3D company, we like to look at things 3D, so we can fully take advantage of that with this platform. Now here, instead of using the Bookmark Editor, I'm going to take advantage of another tool that lets us look at the design that we want to work on directly in 3 dimensions out here on the web. This happens to be a prosthetic leg assembly. And I may want to access that same part I just looked at, but this way I can find it visually in a very complex structure. There's quite a number of parts in this structure, and you can see the visual view of the assembly here, and also all the various subcomponents here to the left that make up this structure. So I don't really know where the part is I want, but what I can do is simply pick on that part and ask it to focus in on that particular component. Not only does it show it to me visually in 3 dimensions, it also highlights it here to the left. And once it's highlighted, I can simply say open with SOLIDWORKS. And once again, it will open the SOLIDWORKS application and bring the object that I've selected directly into the session so that I can work with it. So now we have the part in session. You can see no matter the approach I've taken, I still end up in the same place with the same piece of information. Just a matter of the process and the situation you may be in to get to that data. Now, there's a number of other applications on the platform that I could use to open and access this just in a similar manner as you just saw. However, a lot of these applications are better suited to the designer who's sitting in SOLIDWORKS. He may want to get to them directly. And let's touch on one of those. One is called a task application for a task that may be assigned to you. And once again, I'll access that task directly here from inside SOLIDWORKS, what we call collaborative tasks, and bring that up. And I have to-do lists, in progress and tasks that are done. So it's a passive tool that allows me to just organize. People could send me a request to go look at a piece of information in the system. And that information may be from SolidWorks. And that's an example here. I've got this one that says someone asked me can you review the BioAdapt assembly, that prosthetic assembly we're just looking at. If I click that task, I see all the various attributes of the task, including a link to that particular assembly. And once again, if I bring that component into the assembly, the system loads it, and I can continue working from that point. So I never had to actually have to look for the data or need to know where it's stored. It's simply routed to me through the action of a task. And this is true of a number of other applications. Now, up to this point, I've been accessing all this data sitting here working on a keyboard with a classical mouse. But there are many occasions where I may be working with a device that is mobile. I mean, you may be working on a Windows device or a pad that has Windows, it has SolidWorks, but it is a touch device. We fully support that. In this case, for example, instead of accessing this particular design here from sitting at my laptop, I could have gone here directly and said, gee, I would like to work with this particular assembly, this foot. I can just touch the screen, and the drag and drop capability is fully available to me to work with this data directly on the desktop. So if I'm walking around with some mobile type device, the platform and SolidWorks can be fully mobile with me. Thank you for your time, and I hope this was informative.